Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful week and you got to build some beautiful, powerful web apps with Dash. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to build a multi-page web app that has 2 pages to it and that's deployed onto the web. So you're going to learn how to create and deploy a multi-page web app to the web using Heroku. This first page we're going to build and deploy to the web has 2 drop-downs with the type of game, simulation, and the sales to different countries. So let's say Japan sales of simulation games. The most successful game or highest sales were Animal Crossing. Let's do shooter, for example. The most successful was Splatoon, and then Twinbee. And these are the different consoles that were used for these games. EU sales and all. This is the first page. The second page is going to be, I think it's a Spanish-speaking supply chain, like a market, and it's going to show us all the customers or all the country destinations of the orders and where they came from in proportional to the US different states. So here it shows us that all the customers in China, when they made cash payments, they ordered $23,000 of products from California, $7,000 from Texas. If they ordered it via debit, they ordered from more countries. They ordered from Colorado and Kansas. Let's say Canada, for example. Canada didn't order anything from the Midwest states, but they order from Florida and all these states. If it's a transfer kind of transaction, then they order products from these different states. So here we're just tying the drop downs to the core Pleth math. So we're going to create these 2 multi-page app, and we're going to deploy it to the web in 4 different parts. We're going to divide this tutorial to 4 different parts. The first part is going to be all about the file structure. So you're going to learn how to structure your files and folder inside your app so it works correctly. Because you need to have a very clear structure in a multi-page app for this app to work correctly. So we're going to do this in the first part. The second part is going to be the connection between the Python files. So all these Python files that are part of the app have to be connected to each other for them to work. And it's usually the first couple lines of code. So we're going to go over all those lines of code in order so you can understand how the app is connected to each other and what libraries you need for this app to work correctly. In the third part, we're going to use this step-by-step instructions to understand how to deploy everything to the internet, the World Wide Web, using Heroku. We are using this URL, but you can use a new one. You can create a new URL for yourself as you're doing this along with me, so you can have your own URL with this app. And the fourth part, I'm going to show you a little bit more about the code, a little bit more about the drop downs here and how we can save information and how we tie it to the callback, but especially how we can save information between pages. Because you see how here it says Canada and transfer. If I go to video games and then I go back, it still says Canada and transfer. However, if I go to video games and I put here shooter and EU sales, shooter and EU sales, if I go to other products and then go back, EU sales stay the same, but shooters go back to strategy. So I'm going to go over some codes so you understand how to maintain information between web app pages on your dash, on your dashboard, on your web app. That's going to be the fourth part, and then we're going to have some closing remarks. I hope to load another supporting document with different bugs that might occur when you try and deploy to Heroku, so you can look at those and see what you might have done wrong if it's not working for you. We are going to do this with this tutorial is based on the structuring a multi-page web app in this documentation right here. This is the multi-page method. There's 2 methods in creating a multi-page app. There's this one, and then there's a flat method that's described right here. But we're going to focus on this first method. Okay. So if you want to read more about the documentation and more about each line of code, click on the link below the video and you can go into here. This is my GitHub, so this is also going to be a link below the video. This is where you can download all the files and all the folders that you need, so we can do this together and you can follow along. Very important. Under the link, under the video, in the description, there is going to be there's going to be a layout links, the video layout. So if you want to jump to part 1 or part 2 or part 4, click on these links, so you can feel free to go to whichever part you want to see again, and you know, so it can help you. I think that's it. The data we're going to use, we're going to see over in a sec. And yeah, so I think we can get started. Let's go into the first part, the file structure. Oh, one thing to remember, my recommendation is, if this is the first or second time that you're uploading, that you're learning how to do a multi-page app, then just do exactly the same as I'm doing, because a lot of things can go wrong. So just follow step by step. And then if you want to tweak the app, create your own drop-downs, create your own data sets, then just add to that and change that. But first, learn how to do this, and then you can transform and alter your app to something else. Okay, so part 1. File structure is very important. This file structure is exactly the same as this. Okay, this is on PyCharm that I'm using, and this is my folder inside my computer. So don't pay attention to this and this. These are not needed. But pay attention to these 5 files and folders. The file structure in a multi-page app is like this. First, you have the 2 main Python files, the app and the index, which are right here, the app.py and the index.py. And these files serve to call the initiate the dash class and create an app object, and then create the server object. Okay. And also, we're including the meta tags here, so it's easier to see on a mobile, and it's responsive to mobile layout, so just a lot cooler and a lot nicer if you use this app on a mobile. So here we're just creating these objects while importing dash. The index Python file is actually the entry page, and this is the main page that the app is going to, the server is going to use, or the user is going to go onto as they click on the link to go into your app. So these are the 2 main pages. They're always under the main folder right here, the Multipage app, and not inside any other folder. Then you have 3 other folders. These folders are the apps folder. Just make sure you spell it apps, okay, for this tutorial purposes. It's going to have 3 different Python files. This first Python file, init, is just an empty file, and you have to do __ init __ .py. It has to be empty. You need that for the app to read the following pages. And then the other 2 things that are going to go inside the apps folder is each page. The vgains.py is 1 page. It's going to have this layout with all the callbacks underneath. Okay. And then the second page is the global sales page, which is going to be all this and all this layout, which is actually this, right? The global page, sales page, and the video games page. So each one of these pages are defined by these Python files, the vgains and the global sales files, inside the apps folder. Assets folder, you make sure you spell it assets, like ASSETS, no capital letter, and then we're going to have the CSS file in it. This CSS file, created by Chris and Plotley, is something that allows you to arrange everything in rows and in columns so it looks neat, the layout. Luckily, you don't have to do anything with this. You don't have to know CSS. You just put this CSS inside the assets folder, as you can see here, multi-page app, assets, put the CSS inside the assets folder, and that's it. You don't need to do anything with it. Dash will automatically read that CSS file if this folder is spelled correctly. The last folder we have is a datasets folder. I created a datasets folder because I wanted to use multiple CSV files, and so I put everything inside this datasets folder. So these are the 2 CSV files we're going to use, and they're going to be inside this folder. And to read them, you will see later in part 2 how we're reading them into our Dash app, each page inside our Dash app. So if you want to create or use another data set, just go to data set and just put a different an additional CSV file in here. If you want to create another apps page, go into the apps and then create a new file inside here that's going to be a .py file to have your 3rd or 4th page inside the app. If you want to add another CSS file for layouts, you can add another one in here. Okay. And then, like I said, these are the two Python files you're going to have outside of the structure, inside the main folder, the main multi-page app, but outside all the other folders. Okay, part 2. How do we connect everything together? How do we connect these Python files together so they read each page app and they read each other's libraries and they can all display on one web page or 2 web pages on the internet? So the first thing you need is this app file, right? The app.py. Here you're importing dash, you're creating the object of the dash.dash, you're creating the server object, and then you're creating the meta tag so it's responsive on mobile. You don't need this, you can just take this out if you don't want mobile usage. Okay, with this name underscore, very important to use. So this is the app file. Then we go into our index, and our index is the main page where the app actually, it's the landing page. So this is the main page that the user is going to see as soon as, or the first page that's going to be loaded as the user click on your link to see your web app. And here we're just importing the main dash components that we have to use for the layout here inside. And then we're importing these. We're saying from app, since we're saying from the app file, right, from here, import app. So we're importing the app object right here from the app file right here. So if this was apps, or let's say appd, you would have to say appd, okay? But don't change it, leave it the same. Don't mess with that, just leave it the same, and it would block any types of, you won't have any mistakes if you just leave it the same. It's a lot simpler. So we're reading an app object from the app folder. Here we're reading the server object from the app folder. So we're going to the app folder, we're reading the server object. Now this took me about 5 hours or 4 hours. If you don't have this line of code, your app is not going to function on the World Wide Web, on Heroku. So you have to make sure that you're reading the server from the .app, the server object from the app file. Okay, and the last thing is, we're also going to read the 2 web pages from our apps folder. So we're going to say from apps folder, from right here, read the 2 web pages, the global sales and the vgames files. We're going to read this, and we're going to read this into our main index page, the main index file, sorry. Both of these. If you have a 3rd page, you're going to add another Python file inside the apps folder. Just make sure you're reading your third app, okay, whatever that is. Okay, and now we're going to go into the layout. So this is the main layout that the user is going to see. So let's understand the layout together to see how everything is connected. So the first thing we have is an empty div. It's going to define our page. It's an empty page. Inside this empty page, we're going to have the first section, this first div is going to have 2 links, all right? They're going to be on the same row. And those 2 links is going to be the video games and the other products link. This is the text inside the link. So if I go here and make this smaller, I'm going to have the video games link, as you see here, and I'm going to have the other products link that you see here. And this is actually the text. So if I change the text, you'll see a different text here. But the link itself, when you click on it, is going to be this. It's going to be /apps video games and /apps global sales. So if I click on these video games, you'll see, let's actually load it. I was using the Heroku app, and I'm going to use the one on PyCharm, the one on my computer that's not loaded yet. So if you see here that if I click on video games, I'm clicking on the video games link, apps/video games, you'll see that when I click on this, it's apps/video games. And if I click on the other products link, I'll see apps/global sales. So whenever I click on this, the link goes inside the URL because this is the text that's of the link. Now, DCC location is a component inside Dash that allows us to read what the URL is. And you read it with the path name attribute. The path name attribute is an empty attribute. For now, it's an empty string. But like I said, as soon as I click on a link, this link is going to populate inside this string like this. Right? So if I click on the app video games link, this link is going to go inside the path name right here, right? And if I click on the video games, not the video games, the general products link, this link is going to go inside here. It's going to be read inside there. So this is a way to read the URL that's inside the browser. This allows the app to read what is exactly inside of here. All right, and you'll see in a second the callback why this is so important. And then we have an empty HTML div with, not empty, with an ID, and it has an empty children. And we're going to put all, this is very important, so small, but it's so powerful, because all the app pages, all the layouts are actually going to go inside of here. Everything is going to go inside this list, every single page. So right now it's empty, but we're going to return things inside of here using the callback. Okay, so let's see how we do it with the callback. So in the callback, we're going to say, take the URL ID, which is right here, the DCC location component, and take the path name attribute. Remember, the path name is by default, the path name is empty, right? So we're going to take the path name, and we're going to say, if, right here is the path name inside the function, if the path name equals this link, all right, then return something. If it equals this link, then return something else. And why will it equal this link? Remember, it will equal this link if you click on this link inside your app. So if you click on this link inside your app, and the URL will be inserted, this link will be inserted. So I'm using the component property path name to actually read this from the URL. It's Dash's way to read the URL and see what's actually in there. So I'm saying, if this is inside the URL, return vgames.layout. What is vgames.layout? Vgames.layout is actually what we imported from our apps folder. So it's this, the vgames.py, and we're calling the method layout. So we're returning this whole layout, this whole HTML from here, HTML div, all the way to here. All of this, let's make this a little bit smaller. All of this we are returning inside of right here. This is what this means. So you're going to return this. Where is this returning? This is returning to the page content, to the children of the page content. So all this is returning inside here. So it's as if I'm saying, if I clicked on this link and this link is inside the URL, because it's automatically inside there, then take the vgames.layout and insert it into the children. So I'm taking actually all this HTML div, and I'm going to insert it into the children right here, copy paste, right? So all this is now going to be inside this empty div content, right? And if the URL is going to have this link above, then return the global sales.layout. So I'm going to go into global sales, not this, right here, and I'm going to go to this layout, and it's going to return all this div, right, all the way down here with the graph. You're going to return all this inside the children, which means this. All of this is going to be inside here. So that's how I'm returning different pages. If this is a link, I'm returning the first page of the layout of the video games. If it's going to be this link, I'm returning the global sales page. Now, if none of these are in there, I'm just going to return this text. Return this text inside the children, which actually, like I said, goes inside of here, inside your empty div page. So let's see what happens. If I go here and I say, spell something else, it's spelled incorrectly, then I'm returning this. I'm returning this string. And you see how we have these two links above it. Why do we have these two links above it? They exist because on top of this HTML div, the children, empty children, which has that string, it has a location which is like hidden, you can't really see this, and then it has two links inside this div. You have the video link and the other products link. So because we have these two links are always going to exist, but I'm going to return this if there's a mistake in the spelling, or if there's nothing in there, it's just going to return this. You don't have to return this. I returned this so you can see an example. If you want, you can say return this. Instead, return this main page, return the video games layout if somebody makes a mistake or nothing is returned in there. So now if I refresh it, you'll see that if I click on this link, it's going to return the video game. This link here is going to return the global sales layout. And if I don't click on any of them, it's going to automatically return the video games layout. So let's go here. Let's refresh. You see? So now if I click video games, it's video games. So I click other products like this. If I made a mistake, then it's returning the video games. If I don't put anything in there, it's still returning the video games because I put else video games. Okay, but let's leave it as a 404 just for example purposes. Okay, so this is the index, and this is how you tie it to the app and to the other pages. Now, the last thing we have to learn in part 2 is how we are reading the data inside each page of the app. If there's any questions you don't understand because I'm talking too fast or it's just too new, or you need to clarify, use the comments below the YouTube video so I can answer you and see what you need help with. And don't forget, if you're liking this, hit the like button and subscribe below the video so you can receive a new tutorial about Dash, about your own web apps, all in Python from my channel on a weekly basis every Sunday morning. Okay, so how do we read the data inside each page of our app? So first we're going to go into the video games page. This videogames.py page, this is how we're reading the data. We're going into, this is the main way to read the data, okay? So because the data is inside the CSV folder, it's inside the datasets folder, we have to do it this way. If we didn't have it inside this folder, if it was in the same folder of the VGames app, if everything was inside here, I could just do, instead of all of this, I could just do this. Div equals let's just copy paste, VGame sales, this, and that's it. And now I will be reading everything into a pandas data frame. But I can't do that. I can't do that because my CSV files are inside the datasets folder. So to read it from the datasets folder, what I have to do is just pretty much just copy paste this. For time purposes, I'm not going to explain why pathlib.path, but this is all you have to do. Just copy paste this code, and this will actually read the CSV file from the datasets folder. You see right here, the datasets folder inside your Dash app. So make sure you import pathlib, make sure you define it these two ways, these two lines of code, and then you read it into a pandas data frame by doing read CSV because it's a CSV file. If it's an Excel, then you can just read Excel, and then you do dash path, join path, and you read it inside like this. If you're changing the folder name to, instead of datasets, you call it datasets1, make sure to change this to datasets1. If you're reading a different CSV file, let's say instead of VGame sales, you're calling about, I don't know, milk products, then make sure that you change this right here and that the CSV file is called milk products. Okay, so just make sure to follow this along. And I'm doing the same exact thing with the global. I'm just going to save this. With the global sales. So you'll see up here, I'm reading everything. I can just erase this just to show you. I'm reading everything into a path, into a data path, and then I'm going to read the CSV, the other product sales into a pandas data frame. Okay? Okay, save that. So this is the end of part 2. I showed you how to connect the index, to the app and the main app file, and how to connect the pages, each page of the app, into your main index page, which is going to be the first page that your app reads when the user goes into your app, or the Heroku server reads your app. This is the end of part 2. Part 3 is a very exciting part because we're going to see together how to upload everything into Heroku. So follow along, and let's do this together. Okay, so part 2, let's upload this. Okay, so sorry, part 3. First of all, you want to sign up for an account on Heroku if you don't have an account on Heroku. So let us log out from Heroku. Now, I'm not going to sign up because I already have an account, but I'm going to show you. Just click on sign up, put your first name, last name, your email address, your role, maybe it's a student, other, whatever, hobbies, professional, country, language, and then create free account. Once you create your account, you'll be able to put your email address in there, your password. Once you create it, you'll see this main page, which is the apps that you have. You'll probably have an empty page. You won't have any apps. But then go into New to create your new app. Create new app, and then call it whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it our sales. Is it available? Yes. Our sales. Call it whatever you want. If you want to have a different URL name, then call it a different name. But remember this name, okay? This is our sales, create app. So now we create our app. We created part 2, which is our app name. And now you need to download and install Heroku CLI. If you don't have that, just go into here, the Heroku CLI, and go in there and choose the one that you need, either for Windows or for Mac, so you can download and install it, because you're going to need it in order to work with a terminal or a command prompt with Heroku. We're going to go work with Heroku inside here. It's better to have this CLI file. So download that. That should be pretty quick. Set it up. And then the next step, we're going to create a new project in PyCharm. I'm going to use PyCharm. If you want to use Visual Studios or something else, a different Spider, then feel free to use that. I think it's a bit more complicated with Jupyter. So I would stick to one of these, PyCharm or Spider or Visual Studios. So we're creating a new project in PyCharm, and we're going to create a new virtual environment. So let's do that right now. Let's close this project. Make sure everything here is saved. We didn't change anything. Good. Okay. Close the project. Terminate. We'll close this as well. We're going to create a new project. And this project we're going to call, it's going to be inside my more advanced shit folder, and we're going to call it sales app. Call it sales app. You can call it whatever you want, this folder, sales app. And we're going to create a new virtual environment and use a base interpreter. My base interpreter is going to be obviously Python 3.8. I think it's on my computer automatically. I'm going to do create. And yeah, the base interpreter, and wait for it to create itself. This takes about 2 seconds. So let me grab some water before this loads. Okay. Once this is created, we're going to create a new Py file to start writing the code for your app. Now, we already written all the code. I've written all the code. So I don't have to spend 2-3 hours to show you how to write the code, which you can download from my GitHub. So instead of creating all this together over again, I'm just going to go into the Multipage app that I originally created and just copy paste this. So I don't need the PyCharm cache or the idea. I'm just going to copy this and put it inside the new folder that we just created on PyCharm, which is the sales app. So sales app, see, create already the virtual environment, it's empty. I'm going to copy paste all the documents and folders from GitHub pretty much. All right. So we created that, good. So now inside the sales app, which is our folder, we have all the folders and files that we need for our Multipage app. Next step, step number 6, open the terminal and CD into your project folder. So you open the terminal. I think you can do it with your command prompt as well. And it's already CD'd. Where you see you're already inside. If you were here in advanced shit, you would have to go inside your main folder that you created, the sales app. Okay, so now we're inside the sales app. Make sure that in PyCharm, this should be automatically activated. So make sure that your virtual environment is activated. If not, it's not going to work. Okay, once the virtual environment is activated, because you have parentheses here, now you can continue to the next step. The next step is going to install the libraries that your app is going to need for it to function. So let's install pip install numpy. Go in here, pip install numpy 1.19.1, enter. You can install any version you want. This is a pretty advanced version or recent version of NumPy, so I'm installing this one. The next library we need is pandas. So I'm going to install pandas right here. Again, make sure, don't forget that you need to install these only once your virtual environment is activated. So make sure that if it's not activated, that it's activated and you're inside your main sales app folder or whatever you call this folder. Okay, so we install pandas, but NumPy first. You always install NumPy first. And now we're going to install Plotly 4.10. Pip install Plotly 4.10, format 0. Usually when you install, not usually, when you install Dash, which we're going to install next, whoopsie daisy. When you install Dash, Plotly automatically comes inside Dash. It comes with Dash. But I don't think that Plotly version 4.10 is pretty recent, so I don't know if this version comes inside Dash automatically. I think the version is 4.9 or 4.9 something. So I'm just going to install Plotly separately, and then I'm going to install Dash separately. But you don't necessarily always have to do that. If you don't care about your version, you can just skip Plotly and just install Dash, so you have a different Plotly version. Okay, so I'm going to pause this for a sec. It takes about 3 minutes. And I'll play it as soon as Plotly is installed. Perfect. So we just installed Plotly. Took about 3 minutes, and now we're going to install Dash. Oops. Dash. Copy. 1.16. And the next thing we're going to install after Dash is GUnicorn. GUnicorn is what you need for Heroku server to read the app. So just make sure to install that right here. Okay. So we installed everything, and now we have to create these files. Make sure that you spell everything correctly. You use a capital letter if it's a capital letter, because you're going to need that. So this is copy paste, but you need the dot, so copy paste the dot as well. There you go, no space. Create this file inside your main folder, not the apps folder, but inside the main app folder. So sales app, new file, dot get ignore, no space. If you have a space, it might not work, so no space, RE, enter, and now you're gonna copy paste these into 4 separate, this line into 4 separate lines. Like this, VNV. So this is just telling, when you upload this to Heroku, to the web, it's just going to tell Heroku what to ignore. This get ignores, it tells your app what not to install. You don't want to install your virtual environment because we do that differently. I'll show you in a sec. You don't want the app to read your Python files or this I think is for Mac. So, oops, this is what has to be in there in 4 separate files. And then we have the proc file. Make sure this is spelled correctly and the P is capitalized. And we create that in the main folder. Proc file, no space. Enter. And here we copy paste the web GUnicorn. So you copy paste this. And look what we have. We have web :GUnicorn, and you need to put your app entry file without .py. What does this mean? Your app entry file with op.py :server. Your app entry file, as a reminder, is the index file. This is your entry file because you have play here, and this is the main app page where the user is going to enter at the very beginning. So that means in the proc file, you have to put the name of it without the .py. So it's going to be index alone, :server. Save this. Close this, close the index, and now let's go to the next step, which is requirements file. This requirements file is copy paste here. Make sure that you're inside your the virtual environment is still activated, and make sure you're inside your sales app folder, and just pip freeze requirements. So this is freezing all the, you'll see here it creates a new requirements folder. Close this, open this again, requirement.txt. And this is all the libraries. Now Heroku is going to take this text file and it's going to read all the files, all the Python libraries that are needed in order for this app to run correctly. So you don't need virtual environment. You actually tell Heroku to ignore the virtual environment. So this is not going to be uploaded to Heroku. All Heroku needs is a requirement file, and with this, it will automatically know what libraries it needs to install on the server for your app to work correctly. Okay, so let's close this. Let's close this. And look at the next step. Now we're going to log into Heroku and we're going to upload everything into the server. All right. So again, do this carefully because a lot of things can go wrong. So you want to go into your terminal right here. Click that. It says you want to Heroku press the key to log in. So we're going to log in. I think we're already automatically logged in because we did this right here. The next step is to get init. So click on get init. You're initiating Git. And now we're going to go into Heroku Git remote. Oops. Git remote. And we want to, and not app name. What's app name from step 2? App name for step 2 was the app that we created. You see step 2 right here is the very beginning where we created our app name. And the app name that we created is our sales. Now you might have a different name. If you chose a different name, make sure that you put a different name inside of here, okay? So app name from step 2 is, just make sure there's an A space, only one space, and then the app name, our sales. Okay, so it worked. Get remote to Heroku, perfect. The next step is to git add space dot. Right, these just warning is not a warning. It's just telling you about the CSV files, the Excel files. It's doing something with it, but don't worry about it. It doesn't mean anything. It never did anything bad to my app. Copy paste initial launch. So now you're committing the files to Heroku. It's creating, it's staging them. It's creating a place where they're going to be uploaded into Heroku, and finally you're going to push them into Heroku, the master server, so it can be uploaded. So this takes about, usually about 5 minutes, maybe about 4 minutes. So I'm going to use these 4 minutes to give you some tips. A lot of things can go wrong when you upload to Heroku. So make sure that you're following the instructions letter by letter. So if I say create a proc file and you have to, the P has to be capitalized, and capitalize the P. If we know that the get ignore has to, you have to put VNV, then make sure you put VNV inside get ignore because you don't want your app to read the virtual environment folder. If you have a space, even spaces can make a mistake. Let's say you inside your proc file and you by mistake, I don't want to mess this up right now, but if you have a space between index and colon, it won't work. If you have, instead of server, you misspell it and you just put SRV or without the R at the end, it's not going to work. So it's very important that everything is spelled correctly and everything looks exactly the same as you see here, because if not, it will be hard for Heroku to read the app and to understand how to upload it successfully, and you will get an application error. Let me see one more thing that has happened to me when I upload to Heroku. Obviously, you need this file structure because this file structure is how we're reading the app into our Python files. And that's it. Just remember the names. You can change the URL name to a different one, our sales. But if you do change the URL name, make sure that from the very beginning, make sure that you use a different URL name, a different name here when you initially upload the app into Heroku. Okay, at the end, I'm going to also share with you a document where you can see all the different things that can go wrong with Heroku when you're uploading. So hopefully, if it doesn't work for you, you can look at those tips and maybe try and get and fix your app. This Heroku is using one dyno. It's like the basic version, which is free, but it means you can only upload up to 500 mega. If you're uploading more than 500 mega, it won't work. Okay, and this app I think is about 100 or 120 megabytes. Unless you pay and then you buy more space and you can upload bigger apps. Okay, so it's done. So let's click on the Heroku app, and now you will see that the app is working. So you see that we have, this is the main page because we created it right here. We said index, said if we're not returning these names, these links, then return this error. So we have that. If we click on this links, video games, you'll see video games. It's working perfectly. It's beautiful. Japan sales. We go to the second page. We want to see general products instead of China. Let's see. I don't know. Brazil. See Brazil. You'll see all the orders that were going to Brazil from American states in cash or in debit. So our apps work beautifully, and you can see that if we put a different name to this, then automatically is going to go to this else page, which is this error. Okay, and you see that this our sales is the app URL. Heroku.app is part of the URL because it's a free version. If you pay for Heroku, I think you can create your own URL without the Heroku.app. This free version is also will fall asleep. So if you don't use the app for like 30 minutes, it will take about 8 seconds to load again, just for the first time. Okay. If you pay for it, obviously, then it will always be awake and will never fall asleep. But that's really a problem that you wouldn't have. If everybody's using your app all the time, it will never really fall asleep, and it will always be upload for the first time very fast. Okay, let's redeploy, because to redeploy it's slightly different. Let's say I want to change the app right now. I guess this is part 3.2. So let's say my other product is right here, and I don't want to call it country of destination. I just want to say destination country. Okay, I want to say this differently. Or maybe you want to add another app page to this app. So you're going to have to change that, right? So to change it, you're going to have to download the app files from Heroku, make the changes that you need, and then upload it again. So let's see how we do that. Okay, to do that, it's step 12. To redeploy your app or make changes, follow the instructions on Deploy tab in the Heroku website. Let's go to the Heroku website. Let's go to your personal page, and in the personal page you'll have all your apps. We'll go to our sales app that we just created. Was it our sales? Yeah, our sales app. And we're going to go to Deploy. And now the deploy is going to look a little bit different. It's going to say Heroku login, which we already did. Oh, make sure that you CD inside your where do you want to be? Go into your main sales app folder, right? Okay, we're inside the main sales app folder. This is where you're going to bring all the files from Heroku. And we're going to say clone, clone, that's the verb I was looking for. Clone our sales app. So look at this here. Let's go into sales app right here. This sales app has this folders, but as soon as we're going to clone it, let's clone it right now. It's going to take everything that we uploaded in there, and it's going to create our sales folder right here. You see, our sales folder, it wasn't there a second ago. Now everything is inside here. So you don't necessarily need this anymore outside, but I'll just keep it. Go into our sales, and this is all our app folders from Heroku. And now we want to change that link that we didn't like, right? So let's close this. Let's close this. And remember, this is our main sales app folder, but we don't go into the pages right here. We're going to our sales folder, right? This one. This one was cloned from Heroku. So we only go into there, and here we have everything from Heroku, right? And here we go into our apps page, and we go into our global sales page, and we're going to say, instead of country of destination, we're going to change it to destination. Let's make this bigger so you can see. Destination country. Okay. Save it. Close it, and now you can continue. Now that you uploaded a different text, or maybe you uploaded another app file, you have another page, now you made all your changes, now we're going to redeploy. So the next step is to CD into our sales folder, because right now we're only inside our sales app, but we want to go into our sales folder. Oops. CD our sales. Perfect. So now we're set our sales folder, which is right here. And inside here, now what we're going to do is, where is it? Git add with a dot. Come on. Git add. And the next one is make this better. You can change this, make it better. This is just a note for yourself. Whatever's inside the quotes, you can change and put your own note in there if you want. So it says one file change because we changed that little text in there. And then we're going to say push to Heroku master again. So it's very similar to the original push, but there's a 1 or 2 line differences because we are redeploying. It's very similar to the first deployment, but there's a few 1 or 2 changes in the lines, and this is how you redeploy. So we are just redeploying the app. It'll take about 2 minutes. And now when we redeploy, let's close this for now. Let's close this. We're logged in already. Now, every time you want to redeploy, you just have to do this over and over again, okay? All you have to do is go to open your app as soon as it's redeployed. I'll be back in 1 minute. This will probably take 2 minutes, so I'll be back in 2 minutes. Perfect. So it worked. You see that the app size is 100 megabytes. So you can do very big apps with like up to 500 megabytes on a free account. So the CSV sheet is like 30 megabytes. So you can really create big apps with the free account on Heroku. So let's see, we pushed it everything. So let's click on this link, and now you see that if we go to our video games, if we go to our other products. It's updating 1 second. The products, you will see that now it says destination country and not country of destination. One recommendation, before you upload everything, clone and then upload into Heroku, you can just try it on your own on PyCharm. So make sure the changes work on PyCharm before you try and make changes onto Heroku because the process is a lot longer. So just go into the main your main folder, open the project that you had before, which was the multi-page project, the initial one. Where is it? Heroku, my dash, YouTube, more advanced shit, and we had it in multi-page app. So open that project in a new window and just test things here. So if let's say you want to see if I change the global sales, if I change this to country of destination or destination country, make sure you did everything correctly here. Go into the index and start it on your computer. So it will do it on your own browser on the 127.00, and you can see if you did everything here. You see I spelled it incorrectly. So instead of spending the whole time cloning, uploading to Heroku again, it takes about 10 minutes, just make sure that on your computer, on this test URL, it works correctly. And then if it works correctly, then you can copy paste those same files into the cloned destination. Okay, so this was I think part 3. The last part, I'm going to show you the difference between how to save files or information between Dash apps. So you see, if I go to video games and I change this to racing and this to North America, we see Mario Kart is the biggest money maker. Racing in North America. If I go to other products and I go back to video games, now this changed back to strategy and this stayed at North America. So this is because we use the persistent attribute. So let's go into the drop downs into the graph and see how we are actually saving this information in between web app pages. Okay, let me first close the Heroku folder, the project with the sales app. Close project. And I'm just going to focus on our project that's on our computer, not the clone project. Okay. So let's go into the drop down. So we're going to the video games page, file, sorry. And inside here, you'll see we have 2 drop downs. The first drop down refers to the genre, the type of the game. And the second drop down refers to the sales, right? So you'll see that I'm putting in the second drop down with the sales country, I'm putting persistent type, I'm putting persistent true, because you want the app to remember the information, and the type is memory. There are 3 different types. There is memory, there is local, and there is session. Session, local, and memory. Okay? Memory will remember that on that same page until it's refreshed, right? So the EU sales, it has a memory persistent type. And the dropdown doesn't, the genre doesn't have anything, the strategy doesn't have anything. So if we go here, because this dropdown doesn't have any type of persistent, if I go between apps, it's always going to go back to strategy. But this has a persistent true and persistent type memory. So if I change this right now in between apps, it will stay the same. But if I refresh it, memory goes back to EU sales because that's the default, right? Refresh, EU sales. Why is that the default? Because you see here that the EU sales is a default value. The other two persistent types are also going to have persistent true, and they're going to be either session or local. Local is the strongest one or the strongest memory. Session will be the, this is on the second page. This is right here on the other products. So this is this dropdown has persistent session, and this dropdown is persistent local. Session, if you go to cache, if you refresh, it's still going to stay. It's still going to stay the same. But if you actually close your tab and open a new tab, like here, now it's going to go back to debit, right? So cache, see cache for a second, make sure I did it correctly. And now you'll see that it'll go back to debit. Yes, it'll go back to debit. This is a session persistent. This persistent Honduras, this persistent in the dropdown is persistent local. And this local persistent means that it will always remember it, even if there's a refresh or even if there's a new tab, you close the browser, you open it, it's always going to remember. The only way to not remember this is to delete cookies of the user. So the user of your app will have to delete the cookies of the browser, history, manage, clear browsing data, for, let's delete everything, right? Passwords, everything, clear now. I think I deleted cookies as well. So now, if I go into the global app page, it's not going to be Honduras anymore. It's going to go back to India, which was the default. Right here, you'll see India was a default value of that dropdown. All right, so those are the different types of persistence to manage information between web pages. But this tutorial really focused on creating this multi-page app and how to upload it to Heroku. If you have any questions, please ask under the video in the comments. If you like this and you benefited from this tutorial, I would really appreciate it that you click the like button, share this video with other friends and colleagues, and maybe on your blogs. And don't forget to subscribe below, because if you subscribe below, you'll get a notification. Turn on the notification button, and you'll get a notification of a new video every week that I do on using Dash and Python to create wonderful, powerful dashboards and web apps in those languages and with those libraries. I hope you enjoyed. And keep practicing. Never give up. And always remember, we're better together, so help other people out as well. I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.